had on your business?
The restructuring that we've done over the last 12 months has been really to ensure that we can be ready for the future. So we've reshaped the business so that we can be profitable and grow profitably as we embark on this journey into electrification that is really upon us. Our Brexit plans were very comprehensive, and we really appreciated the government concluding a deal just before the end of last year, and also a UK-Turkey deal, which was really important for us as well. We have had some challenges at the borders, but they've been relatively moderate at this point, and we've been able to work through them, Tom.
What kind of challenges?
Mainly paperwork-related topics. We've worked very hard to ensure that we can maintain supply. We've built a little bit of extra stockpile to help us through that. And we continue to work to optimise those paperwork systems now.
Yeah, and I wonder whether you anticipate that getting easier as people get used to it, or is it sort of stuck that it's going to be quite difficult for some time and slow you down?
I think what we're finding is there's a new normal now, which is there's a little bit more activity required to ensure that there's free-flowing parts of the borders. But that's one of the other advantages of our Dagenham location. I'm sure your viewers are aware that we were appointed as a free port of the UK just last week. That's a tremendous, again, another boost in the arm of the for us at Dagenham at Ford. That's alongside DP World and Thornbury. And that allows us to really change the game at Dagenham and put some new activity on.
Keep an eye on your right door mirror. Keep an eye on the people in the lane on the right cutting across you, going towards Bradford. I can see a silver car on the right. And now he's behind me. You can hear the horning. Now she's going to come over to my left. There she is. You have to watch out for these people. They simply don't know how to drive him around Bradford. That horning was her cutting somebody up, the driver.
I think free ports have their role, particularly where they create an opportunity to level up. And as you know, the Dagenham area is one of the more deprived areas across the country. So that levelling up is not about a north-south divide. It's actually about levelling up within communities as well. So I think anything that allows significant investments to take place in locations is a good thing to facilitate.
This is a diesel engine at Dagenham, but of course your plan is to go all electric in Europe, or passenger fleet all electric by 2030. So one, why diesel for all transit van if you're going all electric? And two, do you think there's going to be enough demand for electric cars by 2030 to make it profitable?
So the profitability of electric vehicles is a key challenge, and I'll come back to that in a second. These diesel engines, though, are really important technology. They're state-of-the-art with the latest emissions control systems and very fuel efficient. And we see they will remain the backbone of commercial vehicles throughout most of this decade. So it really does value for us to invest in that technology, alongside increasing levels of hybridisation and full electrification. And the current engine that we put in the Transit is available as a mild hybrid, and we also offer a plug-in version of that vehicle at the moment. So we're no stranger to electric vehicles. On the car side, we do see by about 2026 that we will be fully electrified. So we'll have plug-in hybrid or full electric at that point. And by the end of the decade,
soon.
Yes. So electrification will come very rapidly on the car side. So when I say 2026, that's for a plug-in or a battery electric vehicle. But by the end of the decade, they'll be all electric, I think, in the car business. On the commercial vehicle side, it will be different. Those use cases are very difficult. They're very, very much more difficult to manage. So we'll see a slightly more gradual transfer into electrification, and it will be case by case. But very much Ford is investing across the board, and the announcements we've made about 2023 will ensure we have a derivative of every type in transit. So for your business, we'll be able to deliver what you need.
And just very finally, the impact of COVID on all of this. What have you seen in terms of sales, and what do you expect could be a bounce? Have you seen a slump in sales as the restrictions lift?
So sales have been really challenging because of the COVID situation and the fact we've had to keep our dealerships closed. So we've leaned into digital activities to try and work with our customers, and they've been really successful, particularly on the commercial vehicle side, which is really exciting. But I think we've had some challenging headwind announced by our government in the last few days, where the plug-in car grant, which is so critical for these early adopters, these electrification customers, whether it's plug-in hybrids or full battery electric vehicles, those grants have been reduced or significantly diminished in terms of their impact, which is really going to make it difficult for some of our customers to lean into electrification. So we need to continue to work with government to try and ensure the right incentives are there, because electrification needs to be affordable for all, not just those.
They've given you the free port. Maybe they can put the grant back in as well. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Graham Hoare, you're the chairman of Ford of Britain. Very good to speak to you. Thank you for coming on the programme this afternoon. Come to your calls on the coronavirus restrictions, possible extension till October of the legislation. John's in Croydon. Hiya, John.
Hello. Yeah, it's been a few weeks since you spoke. Originally I was listening to Ian Duncan Smith. I couldn't believe when he said people know that there's proof that people are safer indoors than they are in pubs. Safer in pubs than they are indoors, which seems to be ridiculous to make a statement like that. I mean, with foreign travel, I think a lot of people will feel that to travel to Spain or Italy or France, which are the main holiday destinations, to leave a country which at last seems to have the thing under control, which has got a roadmap, which has got vaccination, to actually walk into somewhere where they're in the middle of a lockdown, where they haven't got control, and to risk bringing that variant into this country is just plain ridiculous. I know.
Well, John, that would mean. Well, hang on a second, John. That would mean that we don't open up international travel for years, potentially. If the threat is that there are new variants, that's years.
Possibly. Well, it depends whether by international travel.
But John, in a couple of months, all adults will have been vaccinated in this country. All of them.
No, in by July, I think the government is saying it's a couple of months. It's by July. No, it's 4 months. It's 4 months. It's towards the end of the summer. But
and you don't think that would be enough?
Which is not clear. But then do we turn around and say only those who have been vaccinated can travel? This is a big issue that hasn't been solved by the government. They sort of danced around it.
And that's, you are going to get market forces coming in there as well, because I think airlines are going to insist that they only travel having been vaccinated or having had a negative test. Listen, John, thank you for the call. 0345 6060 973 is the number. There is a sweet spot in this between those people who think that it's a bad idea to open up completely now, and those people who think actually we need to keep the pressure on about not having restrictions in place when scientifically they aren't required. Come to your calls in a few moments. Tom Swarbrick here, 12:46.
Coming up at 1 on LBC, Majid Nawaz.
Former PM Cameron is accused of sending multiple texts to Chancellor Sunak lobbying him for a company he was involved in. Do we need a full inquiry into how government contracts have been granted during this pandemic?
Majid Nawaz on LBC.
I've found a simple way to invest.
I found a low-cost way to invest.
I found a fair investment company. We found Vanguard.
And so have 30 million other investors worldwide. It's not surprising Vanguard is a Which recommended provider for investment platforms once again in 2020. Join us today. Vanguard, value to investors. When investing, your capital is at risk.
So, that's the sound a gospel choir makes after buying a used car from Kazoo. Yep, they bought it online and it's been safely delivered to their door at a time that suits them. Ooh, big finish there. Can you buy a used car online and get it delivered to your door contact-free? Kazoo, yeah you can. Kazoo, the safer way to buy a used car.
Right now, TalkTalk are giving you a massive entertainment package for a teeny tiny price. Fibre 35 in TalkTalk TV is just £25.50 a month for 24 months. And you get Amazon Prime on us for a whole year. Average speeds of 38 megabits a second, plus thousands of movies, TV shows, and more. But hurry, offer ends 7th of April. Search TalkTalk TV. TalkTalk for everyone. CPI plus 3.7% annual increase from April 2022. Subject to location, £4.95 post and packing. T's and C's apply.
If you've lost money on investments missold by a bank or financial advisor, AMK Legal can help. Simply text GOOD to 78900.
Co-op Car Insurance presents The Switch. Some switches are more difficult than others, like the switch from 49 to the big 50, compared to switching to Co-op Car Insurance, which now includes protection of your no-claims discount if involved in an accident with an uninsured driver. Plus, if you buy before June 30th, you'll get a £50 Co-op gift card. Search Co-op Car Insurance and make the switch. Underwritten by Zenith Insurance plc, uninsured driver promise on fully comprehensive policies only. Full T's and C's at co-op.co.uk/insurance offer.
I need to feel the power.
Yeah, I only use it for emails.
I need a laptop with oomph.
Gaming, movie making, not for me.
I need this in my life.
There's someone on eBay who needs this.
Only 274 quid? No brainer.
Gosh, I got way more than I thought.
I bought it. Sweet.
I sold it. Marvellous.
Sell on eBay to make extra money. Buy, sell, eBay.
Hello, I'm Vicky Butler-Henderson, racing driver and motoring journalist, and I'm passionate about empowering consumers. If you currently own or have owned a Mercedes diesel vehicle made between 2009 and 2018, you might be eligible for thousands of pounds in compensation due to their alleged use of emissions controlling devices. To join the claim and find out if you qualify, visit mercedes-emissionsclaim.co.uk or text JOIN to 85222.
Hi there, small business owner. Your tiny QuickBooks team here.
Just a quick reminder that we take care of calculating and filing your VAT and payroll taxes, which makes it easier for you to manage throughout the year.
That's right. You're not missing out on any tax savings.
Not on our watch.
For available tax products, visit quickbooks.co.uk.
For 75 years, we have stood alongside those struggling with poverty and injustice, helping refugees after the war, working with Martin Luther King Jr., fighting hunger in Africa. But now we're facing our biggest challenges yet, COVID and climate change. So once again, we stand together, empowering every person to be their own change. Search Christian Aid, I Am Change, and be the change the world needs.
Swarbrick on Sunday with Tom Swarbrick, live from Westminster on LBC.
Here's Andy in Portsmouth. Tom, people need to wake up on the government pushing for another 6 months of this legislation. We were told our freedoms were being taken away and being forced to wear a face mask, etc., was to stop the NHS being overwhelmed. The NHS is nowhere near overwhelmed at the moment, yet where is my family's freedom? I do not want my daughter's life to be restricted like this just because some people may contract COVID. Personal responsibility should be the word now, says Andy. Chris is in Croydon. Hi, Chris.
Hi. I've got over it now because it was a little while ago that he spoke. But I rang in because I was just a little irritated by the guy from Thomas Cook who completely blanked your question about people being unable to go abroad to see members of their family. And I thought I'd put in a word for the forgotten many who can't go abroad, haven't been able to for over a year, to see really close relatives. For example, my son and his wife live in Singapore. We saw their first child when she was a few months old. Haven't seen her since. She's now 2, just come out to 2. They're having their second baby in June, and we probably won't get there. We were supposed to go in February 20. We couldn't go. We've had trips cancelled, and we're just not one of the people whinging about not spending 2 weeks on a beach. There are many people who can't go abroad to see really close members of their family, not just lie in the sand for a couple of weeks, and we seem to be forgotten. And he completely blanked your question on that issue.
Well, Chris, listen, I think that people who see going abroad purely as a discussion about holidays, which, obviously not everybody can do, I think they do miss the point. I think they miss the point for people like yourself and for families like yours who, at this rate, aren't going to be able, unfortunately, to go and see their relatives for still some time to come.
Yes, exactly my point. And he completely blanks that because he's more focused on the 14 days away.
Well, listen, Chris, I hope at some stage you're able to get out there, because it is an awful long time now. I don't know if it's going to make you feel any better, but there are plenty of us with family in this country who haven't seen them for an awful long time as well. Chris, thank you. All the best to you. Russell's a new caller to the programme in Malaga in Spain. Hi, Russell.
Hi there, how are you?
Yes, I'm good, sir. What's the view from Malaga?
Okay. I'm incredibly grumpy about hearing about people wanting their holiday and from the UK or wherever coming to maybe Italy or Spain. I'm sick of it. What people don't realise is that people here are not getting vaccines. I've got 85-year-old grandparents, nothing, no vaccines. So it doesn't matter if the UK is 5, 10, 100% covered with 1 or 2 doses. Nobody here is getting access to it, which basically means they're going to come here, they can still carry the virus, even if it's not going to make them ill, but people here are not going to be covered. And it's going to happen exactly what happened last year. For August, the government here opened up travel, people came here, and 3 weeks into September, we had a massive spike, and then we got locked down again. So it's irrelevant whether people in the UK have got vaccinated, it's irrelevant whether they've got their vaccine passport. People in Europe are not getting covered, so you're basically bringing a mini time bomb back into Europe. So you
that's a decision for the governments of Spain, Greece, Portugal, Italy about whether they're going to allow people to come, isn't it?
It's also, people should have personal responsibility, yeah. I mean,
but hang on, if the government...
So now you'd carry on that it isn't any more traffic lights. So you just continue going wherever you're going. It's temporary roadworks, they'll be gone. So you'd look at the blue arrows, just follow the blue arrows. You're following the road ahead. You can see the other blue arrow up there.
When you're allowed to do these things.
I think people should be a little bit more adult. I think it's incredibly narcissistic to know that we're going to go to a place where people are not vaccinated, where people are not covered, just for a holiday. I mean, it's just incredibly selfish.
Do you think, Russell, just because you're in Spain at the moment, do you think that the EU would be right to put a block on exporting vaccine to the UK in order to get more vaccines into the arms of people like your good self?
I think that we should spread these things around equally, because unless everybody gets equally covered, then you're going to get things like mutations. So, I mean, there's a lot of anger here against the UK, and I think people here are wrong. I mean, the EU messed around, they didn't get their orders in, their contracts were not so good. But equally, this is where we are. So
well, listen, Russell, I can understand the anger. Frankly, if I was where you are, I would be absolutely ripping my hair out with rage that this has been so badly put together by the Commission, by maybe individual member states, whomever it is. The fact that you can just go, you can look up north and see a country just separated by a small split of water that has vaccinated half of its adult population, and yet Europe is so far behind, is unbelievably bad, I'm afraid. Listen, thank you for your call. Mind how you go. Matthew's in Heathrow. Hi, Matthew.
Hi, Tom. I think the government's got to do more to control our borders coming in, to stop this third wave coming into the country. I just came back on Friday from Europe as a haulage driver, and going out, I had to do the rapid coronavirus test, Dover, the French customs officer, checks to make sure you got it, what they introduced coming up to Christmas. And the UK government has done nothing for haulage drivers coming into the UK. I mean, you don't have to do a test. You could come from anywhere on the continent, bar the red list countries of Portugal, and literally you could just come in and you're exempt the quarantine, and we've got to stop this third wave. Otherwise, there'll be loads of new variants. What we don't know how the vaccination's going to deal with it.
How long was it from you leaving the UK to returning to the UK?
Well, I mean, I went out one night, came back the following night, so I was literally only out 24 hours. But,
Do you need, so in that situation, Matthew, do you really need another test before you come back in? Because all the testing to travel, as I understand it, is you need to test 72 hours before either getting on the plane or getting in the boat or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's right. But if I've been on the continent once, sounds like it's starting to take off again on the continent. Holland has still got this curfew after 9 o'clock. You can't be on the streets, with the exception of haulage drivers. And I mean, we unless we control the borders, these new variants aren't going to come in, and they could do more to stop all these exceptions, because it's only going to take 1 or 2 people to come in with a new strain, and we don't know if it could render the vaccine obsolete.
Well, the only thing I would say back to that I find more reassuring is, one, the genomics industry in this country seems to be doing a terrific job about mapping what's coming in and where it is and how potent it is, and that all the vaccination peeps, that's a technical term, have all seemed to suggest that the vaccine can be tweaked, updated, moved around a bit, again technical, in order to try and deal with any effects from a new variant that might render the vaccine less effective. At the moment, there's no suggestion that it will completely wipe it out, which of course is the way it needs to be. Otherwise, we really will be back in a bad place. Listen, Matthew, thank you very much indeed for your call. Thank you so much for all your calls, texts and tweets over the course of the programme. I'm back with you tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Swarbrick on Sunday is here again, 10 a.m. next Sunday. The LBC Global Player is available for you should you have missed anything, and if you want to download and listen to a range of podcasts as well. Coming up at 4, Ian Payne, next on LBC. Majid Nawaz.
Thank you, Tom. Coming up, Britain's military will unveil their command paper on Monday, outlining a shift towards more lethal, high-tech and drone-enabled warfare and reduced conventional forces. So what will the future of warfare look like, and do these reforms address your concerns? Before that, there are 85 unelected hereditary peers who sit by birthright in the House of Lords, claiming day rates and expenses. Is it time for constitutional reform? But first up, former Prime Minister David Cameron has sent multiple texts, allegedly, to Chancellor Rishi Sunak, lobbying him to grant hundreds of millions of pounds in loans to a controversial company that he owned shares in and which later went bust. Do we need a full inquiry into how government contracts have been granted during this pandemic?
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation, this is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 1 o'clock, former Conservative leader Ian Duncan Smith has told Swarbrick on Sunday on LBC a number of senior Tories are questioning whether the government needs a 6-month extension to its coronavirus powers. Fellow MP Steve Baker says given that half of UK adults have now had a first dose of vaccine, the government needs to answer why it's seeking to continue with them. He's expected to vote against the proposals on Thursday, and Mr Duncan Smith says there are doubts whether an extension is needed.
A number of us do think that this timetable is looking very slow compared to where they think the reality is. After all, we've now vaccinated over half the population, and that half is the ones that basically make up about 98-99% of those who die, those who are in hospital.
The Defence Secretary has told Swarbrick on Sunday on LBC the EU Commission is coming under pressure over its vaccine strategy. The Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, has suggested it could stop the export of jabs if it feels it's not getting its fair share of doses. Ben Wallace says the EU risks damaging its reputation if that happens.
The world will say, hang on, we've got contracts with the EU, we've got contracts to manufacture vaccines. India, is part of the supply chain process of our vaccinations. And the world will see some of these statements and definitely be alarmed.
A state of emergency has been declared in Miami Beach in Florida after spring break crowds descended on the city. The South Beach Entertainment District will be under lockdown from 8 p.m. until 6 a.m. local time. Russia's ambassador in London has told Swarbrick on Sunday on LBC he rejects the UK's description of Moscow as an acute threat. The assessment formed part of the government's integrated review of defence and foreign policy published earlier this week. More than £500,000 raised in Sarah Everard's memory will go to grassroots women's charities. Reclaim These Streets say they wanted to pay tribute in this way after planned vigils across the country were cancelled due to lockdown rules. The census in England, Wales and Northern Ireland is being mostly filled out by families online for the first time in its history. The once-in-a-decade survey is asking those aged over 16 to reveal their sexual orientation for the first time. Scotland's census is on hold until March of next year because of the pandemic. The weather cloudy in Wales and Western England with a few light showers. Elsewhere dry with some sunny spells, a high of 12. From Global's newsroom, I'm Tim Humphrey.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Majid Nouaz.
Good afternoon, it's Majid Nouaz here on LBC, leading Britain's conversation for the regular weekend show. Stay with us for a debate on the next hour on what is a front-page investigation for the Sunday Times, revealing who and what and how and when there are 85 unelected hereditary peers who sit by birthright in the House of Lords, claiming day rates and expenses. And I'm asking, is it time for constitutional reform? After that, during the last hour, we'll be discussing the future of warfare and whether or not the government's planned reforms revealed on Monday in the command paper address the future of warfare and your concerns around that. First up, though, it's a story that no doubt is frustrating for David Cameron, once again revealing text messages that he allegedly sent to Chancellor Rishi Sunak, lobbying him to grant hundreds of millions of pounds in loans to a controversial company that later went bust, that the former PM, David Cameron, apparently had shares in. And this reopens that huge debate around and huge controversy around cronyism that keeps rearing its head during this pandemic every now and then. And whether it be the billions wasted in track and trace and outsourcing contracts to private companies such as Serco, or management consultants such as Deloitte that were on £1,000 a day contracts, whether it be the failure to adequately put these government contracts out to tender during this pandemic, resulting in contracts being granted to people's friends that were lobbying friends, such as the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, who, again, allegedly was in receipt of private WhatsApp text messages from one of his neighbours, who ended up then receiving a contract to provide COVID testing kits. And we've heard that story of the former pub landlord getting contracts for PPE, people that were formerly jewellery designers, still now living somewhere abroad but having been middlemen and receiving millions merely for being middlemen. And one wonders how they were able to source PPE from China to provide them to the government in Britain when they had no previous relationship with that industry, and when people that were in the industry couldn't get those contracts. All of this are stories, all of these are stories that we've heard before in our press. But today, another one to add to that litany of allegations has been revealed, and that is the former Prime Minister sent directly text messages to Chancellor Rishi Sunak asking him to grant hundreds of millions of pounds of loans to a controversial company that later went bust, but that the former Prime Minister Cameron did have shares in, and therefore clearly it appears there was a conflict of interests in Cameron lobbying Sunak in that way. He tried to secure loans, I should say, for a company from the government's COVID corporate financing facility, CCFF. The company concerned that Cameron was urging Sunak to lend money to was Greensills, unfortunately named the guy that a finance firm that this guy set up. His name was Lex Greensill. I say unfortunately because if you've been watching, grew up watching Superman, Lex Luthor was the kind of evil genius in Superman. This guy's called Lex as well, but not Luthor, Greensill. Now the Greensill company later went bust, which is part of the controversy because one of the other things, after Sunak didn't accept Cameron's lobbying, asking him to lend Greensills this money, but instead what Chancellor Sunak did, probably wisely actually, is he sent the request and said to officials, government officials, to have a look at, and these senior officials at the Treasury later refused Cameron's request. So all was well there, but it didn't end there. If only it did end there, it perhaps wouldn't have been such a scandal. But what has been revealed is that this company, Greensills, despite Cameron's failure to lobby the Treasury, did later become involved in another government fund, and that is the Coronavirus Large Business Interruption Loan Scheme. So not the smaller one, but the larger one, the CLBILS. And because there's also the CBILS, but this is the CLIBLS, which is the Large Business Interruption Loans Scheme. And that scheme, and here's the really interesting part, it was capped at 50 million. But Greenseals, the company that Cameron was lobbying on the behalf of, 50 million was the cap for that large loan. But what they did, and this part is shocking, is they as revealed by the Sunday Times last weekend, that they managed to sidestep that £50 million limit by instead getting, wait for it, 8 £50 million government guaranteed loans. So if the cap's 50 million, they sidestep the cap by getting 8 of those 50 million loans. 8 loans at 50 million each. The company, by the way, went bust, I remind you. It went bust, but it benefited from a former prime minister lobbying on its behalf. The company since understood to have withdrawn its backing from the 8 loans, but to get the 8 loans in the first place does raise eyebrows and conjure up images of question marks floating in the sky as to how this was ever allowed or permitted to have occurred. Last week, the Financial Times revealed that Cameron had directly lobbied the government to assist Greenseals' firm, but these revelations indicate that the lobbying was deeper than previously realised. And Cameron took up a role advising Greenseals, the company, in 2018, and its collapse after it had a $7 billion valuation left investors nursing huge losses. It is a bit, it's a bit frustrating, isn't it, when you hear stories like this? Because, on the one hand, there was the nurses' 1% pay rise debacle and row. On the other hand, of course, beyond that, because at least nurses still have a job, there are so many people in this country whose small businesses either collapsed or are collapsing and who can't maintain the stresses of having to support those small businesses, haven't even yet got to charities and the arts sector. People are suffering, and yet we keep seeing stories like this, and it does make you really just sit back and think, what on earth were they thinking? Even how does anyone get 8 £50 million loans when the cap was meant to be 50 million? They circumvent it by just getting 8 of them at that rate. You just think that is what the word privilege must have been invented for. Now, whether it's this, which is what commonly in the press known as cronyism, but some people might like to use the word corruption, whether it's this example or all the other stuff that is being revealed that, again, due to a lack of transparency, hasn't been given the adequate attention that it deserves. So if you recall that whole question around how death counts were tallied during the height of the pandemic, or indeed the role of SAGE, which is now being, in the press, it's been revealed that that's also going to be looked at as to whether SAGE was granted too much of a power to monopolise the debate around what kinds of restrictions should be recommended. So whether it's the death counts, whether it's SAGE, whether it's this recent story that just came out about the do not resuscitate orders that were, the patients had slapped on them without due consultation with them or their family members. And in other words, elderly people, up to 500 it's estimated, were left to die without family members being given any form of say over whether or not they should be or resuscitation should be attempted, but rather it was some form of government decision from high up. All of this needs to be looked at. What's stopping anyone being able to look at it, of course, is the lack of transparency around it. So there are now some calls from the Labour Party asking for an inquiry into how the pandemic was handled, but should that now be broader? Should it include how contracts were granted? Should it include things like the death count tally controversy that was revealed by the Daily Mail a couple of weeks ago? Should it include the role of SAGE and the power SAGE has? And should it also include, as I say, the do not resuscitate orders and other things that are no doubt going to be revealed as time goes on? And when it comes to this cronyism, then what can be done about it? Well, one of the key things to remember is the reason some of these companies that had former pub-land debates of the health secretary or former neighbours, Tory party donors, one of the things that allowed or facilitated this situation to develop And of course, in the government's defense, one of the reasons they give for why it developed is we were in a state of emergency and the usual tendering processes had to be bypassed. There was a VIP lane to try and get these contracts out ASAP because we were in a pandemic. And so the usual tender processes were suspended. But how and why were they suspended? Well, they were suspended along with our democratic rights, our civil liberties. They were suspended through the Coronavirus Act and other such measures due to the state of emergency. Which brings us back to what possible solutions could be. Well, one of them is start with this one. The government should basically halt the emergency procurement measures that were put in place at the beginning of this pandemic. Instead, what they should do is reintroduce the competitive tendering. So right now, the usual way we do business, just like yesterday when we were speaking on this show about the usual way we do civil liberties, the usual way we do business right now is suspended. It doesn't exist. So it's not just our civil liberties that are being suspended. How multi-million-pound contracts are granted by governments, the private sector, with all the rules around that to safeguard that your best mate doesn't get a contract if you're a government minister, which is what's been happening, right? WhatsApp messages to friends and neighbours getting contracts, neighbours of the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock. These rules exist to make sure that doesn't happen. Why? Because we don't want to live in a banana republic. We want to live in an open, free and fair, transparent, small L liberal, in other words, traditionally British liberal democracy. That's what we value and cherish in this country. That's what our history informs, and that's what our trajectory post-Brexit needs to remain. Traditionally liberal, open, transparent, secular democracy, right? That's what this country is. So these rules were there to make sure that's what we have. They've been suspended because of the pandemic, and that's where banana-like things like this can happen. The only way to stop them is to reintroduce those rules, to end the suspension around the usual checks and balances that exist to prevent this kind of thing happening. Now, as I said yesterday, the same thing for civil liberties. I'm saying now today for this cronyism that some would prefer to use the word corruption. Cronyism is a gentle way of addressing this, but whatever word you want to use, it's these competitive tendering rules that need to be basically brought back in. Now, the government should also commit to publishing all outstanding COVID contracts so that we can see what's been going on and who's been getting these contracts. Right now, who's doing the work? Investigative journalists and struggling third sector charitable organisations. That's what that's the people looking at this stuff, and then of course handing it to journalists like the Sunday Times, who are publishing this investigation, and other newspapers like the Mail published this one today as well. So a return to that level of transparency as well is also needed. The 40-day deadline for publishing the details of contracts should be reverted back to 30 days, so we can see it sooner. Again, one of the old laws that was suspended. That needs to be brought back in. And so I think this is really another reason to say enough is enough now. You've got a roadmap that is meant to be irreversible. If that's the case, then let's also reverse the reverse gear that our democracy was put in due to this emergency and get back to the normal kind of transparency that we expect in a liberal democratic country. Tell me what you think. You're listening to Imagine Noahs, and the time on LBC is 1:16.
This is LBC.
Now more than ever, people are looking for greener transport choices. And thanks to the Go Ultra Low campaign, LBC will be spending all next week discussing what it's like to own an electric vehicle. We'll look at some of the common misconceptions people have about owning an electric vehicle, find out more about charging your car at home or out and about, as well as advancements made in the industry and the exciting world of Formula E. That's all next week with the Go Ultra Low campaign on LBC.
Get the stunning Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus 5G with Vodafone. And right now you could save £561 guaranteed. That's right. I said £561. Simply trade in a Galaxy S9 or S10 using our trade-in tool by the 31st of March. Ready? Vodafone.
Based on £15 per month trade-in saving on a 24-month plan plus £201 offer saving. Return device must pass trade-in checks. Details and terms at vodafone.co.uk.
It's time to start thinking about swapping your lounge for your lounger and spoil yourself rotten. And that's something a Saga Boutique cruise is rather good at. Boutique is your own VIP door-to-door chauffeur. Boutique is indulging in fine speciality dining in one of our restaurants. It's relaxing in the knowledge that travel insurance and cancellation cover for coronavirus is of course included. Go on, spoil yourself. Cruises in 2021 and 2022 now on sale. Search Saga Boutique Cruises.
Travel insurance provided by Great Lakes SE. Cancellation cover provided by Saga. Subject to medical screening. Opt-out option available. Over 50s only. T's and C's apply.
What does it take to help a teenage girl living with cervical cancer? Making a nice cuppa, fetching a blanket, giving boy advice, and having a conversation about freezing her eggs in case the treatment leaves her infertile. We do whatever it takes to help people living with cancer. But we can only do it with your help. Donate online today at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support. Whatever it takes.
John's laid back Easter lamb.
To stop the days rolling into one, I tried something fancy this Easter. Middle Eastern lamb.
If you're the lead vehicle at a traffic light and the lane on the right is clear and it's going ahead, keep an eye on it.
Once the meat caramelizes, it just falls off the bone. And because I do it all the night before, we eat our Sunday morning in bed.
Whatever you're cooking this Easter, Tesco has everything you need to help you celebrate. Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
Help stop the spread with FFP3 face masks from Trusted PPE, our most effective personal protective equipment. Now available for just £50 for 10 masks, including free delivery. Order before 4 p.m. weekdays for same-day dispatch from trustedppe.co.uk. Rated excellent on Trustpilot.
Right now, TalkTalk are giving you a massive entertainment package for a teeny tiny price. Fibre 35 in TalkTalk TV is just £25.50 a month for 24 months, and you get Amazon Prime on us for a whole year.
Here we are, Louis
30 megabits a second, plus thousands of movies, TV shows, and more. The campaign offer ends 7th of April. Search TalkTalk TV. TalkTalk for everyone. CPI plus 3.7% annual increase from April 2022. Subject to location. £4.95 postal packet. T's and C's apply.
This is LBC with Magic Wires. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84855.
It's conversation for the regular weekend show. Lots of you reacting to this question around queries and contracts. Now, what I said in my introduction is I linked it to yesterday's topic about lifting the emergency powers and said, just as our civil liberties have been suspended, here you see the usual processes for making sure that we don't allow for cronyism and banana republic-type behaviour in government contracts being dished out. That competitive process for tenders has also been suspended due to the emergency. Now, what we're going to do is because the two topics are so intimately related, and because we had earlier on my colleague Tom Sawbridge and Duncan Smith talking about those emergency powers and agree with us that it is not good enough that the government is attempting to extend them for 6 months. He suggested, Ian Duncan Smith, that they should be extended only for a maximum of 3 months, because that's when they won't have June 21st, of course, the earliest date by which we have our freedom spike. So what we're going to do for you is have this discussion now, and then hopefully extend this to include our reaction to Ian Duncan Smith's point that these emergency powers should only be extended for 3 months, and then in the next hour talk again for you about the nature of these emergency powers, their seriousness, and what we can do to make sure that we don't have yet more 6 months of these emergency powers instead of a maximum of 3 months, as Ian Duncan Smith said. So that's just setting up the show for you. That's what we hope to do for you. The lines are open, 0345 6060 973, and Joe is waiting on the line to speak to us from. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, thank you, Magic. Good afternoon. For every reason that you sort of mentioned from the top of the show, is why we do need an inquiry into all of this. And if I may make a point about the doing in a minute, just the kind of companies that have been given these huge contracts with something that's actually quite specialist, and then when all of the huge shipments from Turkey, and absolutely none of it could be used. Well, tell Supreme, you've got a jewellery wholesaler to go and buy specialist equipment. What is in effect
conspiracy theorists, and also the way that this has also brought on a kind of everything that was on the slate beforehand about how things run has been wiped off because we're in an emergency.
And Joe, just for the listeners' sake, I'm going to read for you a Guardian headline. Government confirms 400,000 Turkish gowns are useless for NHS. Minister Brandon Lewis says much heralded shipment fell below medical standard. That was in the Guardian 10 months ago.
So have we still footed that bill, or has it all been sent back and we've got the money back?
Well, this is the problem with the transparency I mentioned, is that part of the problem is that the usual rules, the usual rules where this is all published, the usual processes are suspended.
This is a very slippery slope we're going down, and it's obviously it's 24 karat gold because it's all about our health, it's all about our safety, it's all about life and death.